I want to take you to a developing story now. An anti-land invasion unit has assisted or has moved in to help police in an area there to demolish structures built by residents on privately owned land. That's in Cape Town in the Strand, Somerset West area. Our reporter Ati Mtonga, and I'm more familiar with the exact location. Ati joins us now live. Ati, let's begin with where exactly you are and what's happened in the last half an hour or so.
Well, Tembekile, those are the police right now moving out of the area following clashes between the residents here and the police. But I must say that most of the clashes were between the anti-land invasion unit, which is the Red Ants, who were firing rubber bullets at residents here who started building a structure on that privately owned, well, it's not privately owned, Tembekile. There's 3 pieces of land here which residents in Lwandle want. There's a privately owned piece of land, there's also a provincial owned land, and there's also land that is owned by Stanwell. I see residents are speaking. Perhaps let me give them an opportunity to speak. Sissy, can you just tell us how you are feeling following these clashes between the police and the Red Ants and the residents?
I don't understand where the police fall in, because the motive was the Red Ants. We were fighting with the Red Ants, so the police came in. Why do the police want to kill their own people? Even the Red Ants, we are building our houses. We've been living at home for 35 years. We've been living in our houses for 35 years. We are tired of living 5 siblings in a house. We are tired of that. And another thing that makes me angry, we're not voting this year in Strand. There will be no voting. We are voting everywhere they're supposed to vote. We're not going to vote. I'm telling you that.
No votes in Strand. That is what the residents here are saying. They're telling us, Tembekile, that they will not be voting come the 8th of May. I'm going to ask my colleague to zoom in and show you the Red Ants who've been firing shots at the residents here who were trying to erect some structures. I'm going to ask my colleague to try and zoom in. I'm sure he can zoom in and show you that the Red Ants are actually right on that provincially owned piece of land where they've just basically tried to demolish a structure which the residents have built. Now the situation is quite tense. I'm sure you can see residents are adamant that they will continue building on that piece of land that is owned by provincial government. Well, we spoke to Alan Wendy, who's a premier candidate here in the Western Cape, and he says that that particular piece of land is earmarked for housing. However, it is not clear whether that will be beneficial for the residents here in Lwandle who want land now for houses now.
Ati, I want to come in then for the benefit of those of us just catching up with the developments in Lwandle. Just give us a background of the housing issues in that area. How long has this been going on?
As I give you a background of the story, Tembekile, I'm going to ask my colleague Zaid Harris to walk with me so we can show you this particular land in question. Now, this piece of land, Tembekile, is owned by provincial government, and they're saying that it is obviously illegal for residents to start building when they have no legal permission to do so. So residents had earlier on been protesting. In fact, I'm going to ask my colleague to pan and show you how it is so evident that there's been protest in this area. The N2 highway has been closed several times due to the ongoing protests in this area. And I mean, right now residents are all out in the streets waiting to see what will happen. But others are very adamant that they will continue to build structures on this piece of land, this vacant piece of land which belongs to the provincial government. So that has basically been what's going on. Residents earmarking certain pieces of land, one which belongs to Sunwell, another one owned by a private individual, and this one owned by provincial government. So residents have been attempting to erect structures on those pieces of land, and obviously the Red Ants, the anti-land invasion unit, moving in to demolish. And because of that, and because of the Red Ants demolishing these structures which residents have built, then they retaliate by then clashing with the Red Ants as well as the police.
So Ati, if the local government is saying that the people in that area cannot continue to erect structures because part of that land is owned is in private hands. We've got another piece of land owned by the provincial government and another belonging to SANRAL, the National Roads Agency. What is the plan then? Where can they go to live?
Well, basically what Ellen Wendy said is that people of Lwandle cannot jump the queue of people like people who are in Mitchell's Plain who've been there sitting and waiting for houses for a number of years. And so they're saying that they need to toe the line by being on that provincial housing list to ensure that they're up next for whenever the province sets out to build houses for communities here in the Western Cape. I'm going to continue to just ask my colleague to pan and show you how the situation and how the scene is like here in Lwandle, to show you that residents have indeed taken matters into their own hands by coming out to the streets in their numbers, burning tires and ensuring that they demarcate spaces within these pieces of land to start building homes. So as you can see, tires were burned earlier on this morning and obviously yesterday as well, last night as well. They are all out in their numbers, and police are also here to just monitor the situation, and road closures on the N2 are still in effect. Temekile.
I want to recap for those just joining us. Atim Tongana speaking to us from Lwandle in Strand in the Western Cape, where locals there have started to protest after there was an apparent attempt to remove them from a piece of land that is privately owned. And Ati, I want to come back to you and touch on something that we heard from one of the people you've been speaking to, one of the people who have been erecting shacks there. The woman saying to you very clearly this hour that what's going to happen there is that they are not going to vote come May 8th.
Well, what they've been saying, Temekile, is that they will not, number one, be voting come the 8th of May because of such reasons, where when they try to earmark a vacant piece of land, then authorities send out the anti-land invasion unit and the Red Ants to fire shots at them, basically, because this is what we've actually just witnessed, shots fired at residents who were trying to build structures, and, also that they've been waiting for houses, and this is not a Western Cape phenomenon. It's a situation across the country where a lot of people are waiting on government to build them houses. There's more residents here saying that they want to speak to us, and I think it would be unfair for us not to speak to them. Sisi, what do you want to say?
Yes, I suppose today date yami yothatha treatment yami asthma andikwazanga uyothetha because of kuvaliwe endleleni, andikwazi uyothatha treatment yami asthma. Sisi ndiworried ngale toto yenzekayo, sisingasikipele namhlanje kaloku siyagula singabanye ngabanye. Enkosi.
One more resident. You've all been given an opportunity to speak. Would you just briefly, what do you want to say?
So to this course, sister. The thing about the Vakala, must say, would you bet your police on the Mamiam and food? Quite the curious Europe.
Okay. Thank you very much. I must also mention, Temekile, that earlier on we saw some Somali nationals camping at the local police station in fear of what might happen to them, because we did get reports that some of their shops were looted and vandalized as a result of the ongoing protests here in Strand. I must also make it clear, Temekile, that there's 3 pieces of land here that we're talking about. There's one that's owned by SANRAL. SANRAL, essentially national government. There's one owned by a private individual, and there's one owned by provincial government, which is the one behind us, which the anti-land invasion, the Red Ants, are clearly there to look after.
All right, eNCA reporter Atim Tongana live for us in Somerset West Strand there, the area Lwandle, where they're now running battles between an eviction unit and a group of people who had begun erecting structures on a piece of land there. Do stay with